for listening.
Welcome back, everybody, to your favorite horror and macabre topics podcast.
Horror, macabre, spooky,
True crime.
culty, true crimey, yes.
Going in on it.
All in one.
Everything you need. One-stop shop.
One-stop shop podcast. Yes,
Absolutely.
ma'am. That is it.
I'm your host, Katie.
And I'm Kenny. And this is another week of us introducing ourselves so that you know who you're listening to.
I'm remaining vigilant, guys. Vigilant.
Vigilant? You're remaining vigilant. Is that a word? Or what are you drinking, by the way?
I'm having some lovely Screwball peanut butter whiskey. I wish they would sponsor us. Screwball, if you're out there, please tweet this to Screwball.
Peanut butter whiskey just sounds awful.
It's so good. It's so good for the black sheep, which we certainly are.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
The black sheep of the podcast community.
I'm kicked back this week because it's your week.
I know.
Taking care of things.
I can see your feet.
I'm just here ready. I'm literally kicked back. I'm just here ready to be told a story.
Oh, a story.
A story.
A
Yeah,
story.
I want a story.
Okay. That's what you expect of me?
Story. Yeah.
On this day?
On this day.
On this day. Okay.
In the year of our Lord. In the year of our Dark Lord, 2020.
This is true. This is very true. Yeah, it is my week. Katie is kicked back, as she has said. She's, fully just in full comfort mode right now.
I am fully
and
just laid back. I'm fully reposed. In full repose. In full sprawl, if you will.
Yes. So I'm here to talk to you folks today, all you good folks out there listening to us. And let's just dive right into it. I kind of wanted to talk a bit about urban legends.
Okay.
I feel like it's been a minute since we've kind of, went into the realm of urban legend. I was trying to think of the last urban legend that we did, and
it's been a while.
It's been a minute. In fact, it might have been the it's been a minute. Anyway, I couldn't remember when, so I was like, this must be the perfect time.
The time to do it. Sounds like right now. We love a jackalope.
We've done several in the past, and even traveled to the site of a famous urban legend, Bunnyman Bridge, which was an interesting experience for us.
Yeah, that was fun.
Because it's near us, and it was a really actually, we have a video of it on our Patreon, I think. So Patreon plug here.
Yeah.
For you folks early in the episode. You can find that in the backlogs of Patreon. If you search us at the Haunted Heart Podcast.
Patreon.com/the Haunted Heart Podcast might get you there faster, but
just go to Patreon.
However you prefer.
Go to Patreon, take a prick of blood, put it on your computer screen, and that's how you'll find us.
Yeah.
Actually, no, don't do that. Please don't do that.
I mean, maybe. It'd be cool if you could.
Be cool if you did.
That would be neat. We should build that functionality out.
Right. And there are so many urban legends that turn into tropes that you see quite frequently throughout, many different parts of the world. Take your woman in white, your, La Lloronas, your chupacabras or Loch Ness monsters, all of the above. And, even your man with a hook for a hand. An escaped murderer with a hook for a hand terrorizes teens in the car with the screeching sound of metal being, buried into metal. All of these stories are typically devised by adults as a cautionary tale for children, usually being brought down from generation after generation. And as we grow older, we learn to be less afraid of these women in white or these hook-handed figures stalking us in the darkness, and more afraid of the very real terrors of humanity. But what happens when an urban legend becomes less of a story that you hear from a sleepover and more of a story that you see right on the very front page of the morning newspaper. The thing that makes us feel better about listening to these urban legends is the fact that it's just that, and we can feel scared for a moment and then go back to feeling normal. But what do you do when that feeling of safety is swiped out from under you? What do you do when an urban legend becomes real? And that there is most definitely something or someone to fear in the dark. So today, I am bringing you the story of Cropsey, the terrifying urban legend come to life.
We love it. We're here for it. I'm here with this peanut butter whiskey, and I'm living for it. I'm drinking
Cropsey.
in every word.
We're here for
it.
it.
We love Cropsey. I mean, not necessarily proponents of, but certainly entertained by.
Perhaps. I don't know. We'll find out by the end of the episode, I guess.
Got it.
So let's begin with the story of Cropsey. We're going to travel to Staten Island, all the way up to New York City near a place called the Seaview Hospital.
New York.
New York.
New York.
New Yorkers hate us right now.
They do. They
absolutely despise us.
We're simple folk.
So this is a place where our boogeyman calls home. Now, abandoned buildings are often a part of many urban legends, and it's here the story begins. Seaview Hospital, in its beginning, was one of the largest and most costly municipal buildings for the treatment of tuberculosis, like ever. And rightfully so, as it was also here at this hospital where the first clinical trials for TB treatment took place, which ultimately led to the cure. And when the cure was finally in circulation, the hospital closed. But it did evolve to serve many different purposes, with some areas remaining open and some just being shuttered. And when it was built, they designed a series of above-ground tunnels to connect the different buildings on the property as a means for easy access to the hospital staff. So parallel to these are tunnels running underground that lead to places like the morgue and some of the laboratories. Many Staten Island children grew up around this area and always heard tales of Cropsey. In many of the stories, Cropsey was a maniac who lived in the area by the shuttered TB sanatorium. He was an escaped mental patient with a horrifying hook for a hand who would come out at night to hunt. What would he hunt? Children.
Of course, naturally.
Always hunt the children.
Perfect game. What is that? The most dangerous game.
It's always the kids. They're always coming for the kids.
I generally try to stay away from the kids.
Pretty much.
Personally.
If I was an urban legend, I'd be like, just keep me away from the children.
The antidote is a child.
Yes.
Just put your children out in front of you and she'll run away screeching.
It's like that meme where it's like that guy's like, what's worse than like murder? And it's like a child.
Yeah.
So whispers of children being snatched up in the middle of the night and being drugged hook and flesh by Cropsey down into the underground tunnels, never to be heard from again. These were the stories that many Staten Island children grew up with. One particular summer camp variation of the story eventually inspired the 1981 slasher film The Burning, in which a man by the name of George Cropsey goes insane after a summer camp prank gone wrong and begins to, of course, brutally slaughter the campers with an axe, which sounds a little familiar.
And suddenly I want to go watch this movie. The Burning. Suddenly I need to check Shudder to see if it's on there.
The Burning. I haven't as of yet. It was one of those things that was on my list. I didn't get to it.
Yeah.
So in the 70s, things started becoming a little too real for people with this urban legend. Children actually started disappearing. And it's here where we find Cropsey's other name, Andre Rand. Born Frank Rushan, Rushan. I'm not sure if it's Russian or Rushan, whatever. We're going to call him Frank. Actually, we're going to call him Andre. But he was born in March of 1944. Andre lived a pretty normal life with his parents and sister up until his father's death at the age of 14, and his mother subsequently being institutionalized. Other than that, though, nothing out of the ordinary. Andre eventually became an orderly at the Willowbrook State School in the 1960s. Willowbrook State School was a state-supported institution for children with disabilities and was in operation for about 40 years from 1947 to 1987. The school itself was one of the largest institutions for children with mental disabilities in the United States. By 1967, however, the institution, which was meant to care for about 4,000 children, was overfilled by at least 2,000. After questionable practices and living conditions were exposed, Senator at the time, Bobby Kennedy, toured the institution, and after discovering the horrendous living conditions of those in the school, referred to it simply as, quote, a snake pit.
Mm.
Public outcry eventually led to its closure in 1987. But it was a snake pit in more ways than one, especially because there was an actual snake in the midst of the school in the form of Andre. At one point...
I thought you were going to say it was a snake pit in more ways than one. You see, it was actually a pit full of snakes in the middle of the school.
Yeah,
where they would
that would be
put the bad
terrifying.
children.
How about that?
I definitely thought that's what was coming.
Could you imagine, like, oh, you want to act up?
Oh.
To the pit.
Please meet my pit of snakes. The fuck? What kind of like weird ancient Roman torture is that?
Until you get that one weird kid who's like,
oh yes, I love the
who's
snakes.
like into it. They're like, I'm fine with snakes. And then she gets down there and, they're looking down and the child's just looking back up and it's just covered in the snakes, but it has like become one with the serpents. My mind.
What an icon.
Going too many places at once here. So we're at this school and we've got Andre. And so at one point, Andre thought that it would be a brilliant idea to kidnap 11 children from a local YMCA one evening via a school bus.
From the same YMCA? Like, did he just bundle them all up? Was there like a soccer meet?
I'm assuming so. I'm assuming that there was some sort of event, going on, and I'm not sure. I couldn't really find out like how he became in possession of this school bus. I'm pretty sure it had something to do with the fact that he was an orderly here. Perhaps he was meant to take them home, like he was their chauffeur from the YMCA or whatever.
Yeah.
But, he just decided, how about let's not, and let's go do something else.
Yeah.
So these 11 children ended up on this bus with him, and he purchased each of the children a meal and just kind of randomly drove them all to Newark International Airport.
Huh. Where were we going from? I mean, where does anybody ever go from Newark International
I'm going to tell you what,
Airport,
I've been to Newark International Airport, and it's not a place that I just
It's not a place I want to go back.
No, not at all.
Like 2020's got me wanting to travel, but definitely not there.
Definitely not to Newark International. I mean, the epitome of chaos. Like airports in general are like full chaos energy, but Newark International especially.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Would not want to go there. So he just drives these children to Newark International Airport and just kind of like parks.
Huh.
And he was eventually arrested and served 10 months in jail. None of the children were harmed, but still kidnapping, right?
I just want to say, doesn't seem worth it. Doesn't seem worth it. I mean, my question, luckily nobody was harmed, but also 10 months for that?
What was your intention?
Yeah, what was the plan?
What were you going to do?
What were we doing at Newark International Airport? They didn't eat there, right? They ate on the way there.
I think it
wasn't like Newark International Airport had a smash burger, kind of like Dulles.
No.
And there's not a fucking smash burger anywhere else. So if you want smash burger, you're going on a date at the airport.
Pretty much. I think that they ate on the way there. They swung by, got something, ate on the way there. But he served 10 months in jail. In July of 1972, shockwaves hit the local news at the disappearance of 5-year-old Alice Pereira. Alice had been playing with her brother when, according to him, he had taken his eyes off of her for a moment while playing in a lobby of a building they were in. Andre had been released from prison by then and was a prime suspect because of his,
History. Yeah. Smart.
Yeah.
Maybe check with that guy.
Check him first, right?
Yeah.
Top of the list. But due to lack of evidence, was never arrested. Alice was unfortunately never seen from again. Almost 9 years later, in July of 1981, 7-year-old Holly Ann Hughes went missing while going to buy soap. Her parents filed a missing persons report, while several witnesses claimed to have seen the girl with Andre shortly before her disappearance. Once again, no actual evidence led to no actual arrest. 2 years later, Andre became a primary suspect once again when 11-year-old Tiahese Jackson disappeared after being sent by her mother to get food. In 1984, 21-year-old Hank Gafforio vanished. And Hank was described as being, he had a lower IQ, and at the time of his disappearance, he was 22. There's a documentary that they created about this. It's called Cropsey, which I'll get into a little bit later. But he was 21 when he was allegedly kidnapped by Andre. And eyewitnesses reported last seeing him in a local diner with Andre in the early morning hours. And his body has never been found.
Can you imagine being these cops who were just like, this guy is out there and you probably like have a feeling in your bones that it might be this guy, but you just can't, there's just no evidence?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, definitely. And in 1987, Jennifer Schweiger, born with Down syndrome, was reported missing on July 9th. Witnesses spotted Jennifer walking with Rand. Her body was found underground after a 35-day search. While combing the area around Willowbrook State School, a particular spot caught the eye of retired New York City firefighter George Kramer. He returned with the police. The entire body was unearthed from the shallow grave, and the remains were positively identified as those of Jennifer. Police searched the grounds for evidence and found one of Rand's makeshift campsites in proximity to her grave. This campsite...
Boom. Probable cause.
This campsite was located around the Seaview Hospital grounds. The place in our urban legend where Cropsey was said to reside.
Shit.
So Andre had actually already been arrested prior to the discovery of the body, as he had been caught lying to the police after trying to claim that he had never met the girl. Which contradicted statements by numerous witnesses. So we have our guy here, and he's clearly, they finally, as you say, like, have probable cause. We have his campsite. It's next to the spot, next to, where they found the body. So it has to be a relief for the police to finally have something to pin down on this guy.
Well, just to have somewhere to go.
Right.
Yeah. Yikes. That's crazy. So there was the spot where the victim, where Jennifer was found, was spotted by a retired fire department guy, like a retired firefighter.
They were searching for the.
Well, I'm imagining like this grizzled man who's like, I see something.
I've seen some things.
Good Lord.
Except with like a really thick, like Staten Island accent.
I love that. We love that.
You know it. Yeah, they were combing the grounds and he found, some disturbed dirt and was able to find the body. But what I found interesting was that, to give some context, you have the Seaview Hospital and then you have the Willowbrook State School, and they're within proximity of each other.
Like right beside each other?
Yeah, they're not like directly, they're within like maybe a mile or two
but
of
one
each
could
other.
Go from one to the other quite easily.
Quick walk. I think they're separate. They were separated by woods. He had a little campsite that was kind of in between the two.
Okay.
So it was really interesting to me to find that that's kind of where he had been living, next to this Seaview Hospital, which was sort of like the origin place for this Cropsey legend, which is terrifying. Anytime you have like hospitals, especially abandoned ones in general, are like really super creepy, but then you add like this added layer of urban legend or superstition around it just kind of instantly kind of like gives me little chill bumps.
Well, the urban legends have to come from somewhere.
This is true.
What we find in a lot of them is that there's some sort of kernel of truth there.
And that's kind of what I was trying to figure out. I think that it was interesting because a lot of the urban legends seem to be birthed around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So they just it kind of seemed to be like a weird meeting of the two.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you have this urban legend happening at the same time that these actual kidnappings are happening. And eventually I'm sure the two sort of marry and then kind of grow from there, further on.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. It might be an awkward time to share this, but when you said you were going to talk about Cropsey, I didn't know what you were going to talk about.
You didn't know what I was going to talk about?
Not particularly familiar with that particular urban legend, so I rescind my enthusiasm from the top of this episode because I didn't know we were going to get to child kidnapping. Although somehow we found ourselves here again.
I usually leave that for you, though.
Yeah, which is why I thought it was safe. But apparently not.
No, absolutely not. No. Never safe. Never. Not on this show. Not on the Haunted Heart podcast. Let me tell you that much right now.
This is true.
So,
if we wanted to be safe, we'd have been accountants.
Ooh. I think accountants that's the new word for people who do OnlyFans now.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. She's an accountant.
It's like, what do you do? It's an accountant because nobody ever asks what
any details about your job. They're just like, oh, okay, got it.
If you're an accountant, I'm an accountant. Kind of like podcasting. Like, what do you do? We're accountants.
We're accountants. Yeah.
We do.
Of macabre and mystery. Accountants of the macabre and mystery.
We do things that accountants do.
Yeah. Except for none of those things, because we're not qualified for that.
No, we're not. Not at all. So in 1988, Andre Rand was finally charged with the kidnapping and first-degree murder of Jennifer Schweiger. The Staten Island jury could not reach a verdict for some reason on the murder charge.
So, I mean, did they find any murder weapons or did they just so they found her body and they found his tent area and those two things were adjacent.
Yes.
But there wasn't any murder weapon or any details about that?
I couldn't find any details over about how she had been murdered.
Yeah.
Or any type of murder weapon. I think a lot of it was just the adjacency and
like the
probable
proximity,
cause.
which could have been why the jury was
and the fact that he had originally said that he didn't know her, but then kind of
he had been shady about it.
He had been really shady about it, and when people came forth that like, no, actually witnesses were like, yeah, he had been seen around her or whatever. He ended up switching his story.
Got it.
So switching up stories made you look shady. And then, I mean, to top it all with the fact that, years before you just fucking kidnapped 11 kids on a bus from the YMCA headed to Newark International Airport.
For some reason.
It doesn't, I mean, I'm just saying the odds are not stacked in your favor, buddy. Like if you were actually innocent.
It's not looking good.
No, it's not looking good for you.
But juries don't like lack of a murder weapon, so that makes sense that they were.
I mean, I would be hard. I've never been to jury duty, and I just don't know how I would handle it.
And neither of us ever will be because they'll find our podcast and be like, "Nope, take that name off the list."
You can just go somewhere else with that.
Yeah. But I've always wanted to do jury duty. Like it is my supreme desire. Yeah. I feel like it would be really cool, but I also feel like I would be very ethically and emotionally conflicted.
Interesting.
Like just as a person.
Really?
Like I feel like I would be that asshole in the deliberation who's like, well, who's to say what's good and evil? And then everybody's like, we want to break for Chipotle. Fuck you. And then I would end up getting murdered, and then the story would then evolve from there. It would be a very interesting film.
The plot thickens.
Yeah. But it would secretly be you in the end.
Me?
Yeah, you'd be the murderer in the end.
I would be the murderer. Who did I kill?
Me. You're trying to take me out.
Oh.
You're tired of all these damn ums and ahs.
I don't have to deal with that. Not going to. Didn't have to deal with it. And it just ends up being like this weird, like, knockoff scene from like Cell Block Tango.
Yes.
She had it coming.
She had it coming.
So they couldn't reach a verdict on the murder charge, but they got him on the first-degree kidnapping.
Ah, okay.
Which was interesting. I didn't realize there were degrees to kidnapping.
Yeah, I would think like if you got the kid and you napped him.
That's just it, right?
Yeah.
Like what makes first degree different from second degree?
And did you research that so that we could talk about it?
I didn't.
Oh, great.
I did not.
Perfect.
Not at all. Not at all. Nope. Didn't do that. So he was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Now, he would have been eligible for parole in 2008 if not convicted of a second kidnapping.
Well, damn.
So in 2004, he was finally brought to trial for kidnapping Holly Ann Hughes, which was 24 years after her disappearance. So in New York, there's no statute of limitations. And he was...
statute of limitations? Statute.
Fuck.
Statue. Can you imagine the statue of limitations?
So in New York, there is no statute of limitations. So he was finally able to be convicted in Holly's disappearance and was sentenced to another 25 years to life in prison.
Damn.
So they got him again.
He ain't getting out.
Nope. Not, well, he won't be eligible. Well, he won't be eligible for parole until 2037.
Got it. How old's he going to be then, though?
He would be 93 years old.
Got it. You know, at that point, just keep him in.
If
he's not got much out there for him anyway.
Yeah. So that's kind of a little bit of the basic story. He's in prison, and unfortunately, they have been unable to find the bodies of the other missing people.
So has any research been done on, like, why was he kidnapping these children? Because it seems like he kidnapped both boys and girls, right?
He kidnapped both boys and girls. There was also the 21-year-old who was kind of, like, outside of, like, the typical, his typical motive.
And, like, was there, I mean, not to be too dark, but, like, was there any evidence of sexual assault? Was it, like, sexually motivated? Was it, like, what was the...
Not that I could find.
Huh.
Not that I can find. So Andre actually maintains his innocence.
Huh. Okay.
And again, there are no bodies. Like they have combed. I think they still do searches of the grounds, trying to find bodies or remnants of these victims. And they have been unable to do so. But in 2009, there was the documentary film that I mentioned previously, and it's called Cropsey, where a team kind of gets in deep with this whole urban legend and this guy. And it's actually available to watch on Amazon Prime if you have it. So it's a 2009 American documentary film. It's written and directed by Joshua Zeman and Barbara directed by our guys, Joshua and Barbara. Josh and Barb.
Josh and Barb.
Josh and Barb.
We love Barb.
So the film kind of initially begins as an examination of Cropsey, which is the boogeyman-like figure that we have discussed from New York City urban legend. But it kind of segues into the story of our guy, Andre, who was the convicted child kidnapper from Staten Island. And in 2009, it premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival, where one of the programmers stated that the eeriness of the mystery pulsates through the film as they kind of journey into this underbelly as more information and clues kind of unravel as they tell the story. So it's one of those moments where it's like, we're going to go into it and try to like discover this, talk about this urban legend, but then it kind of evolves from there and turns into this like thing.
Sort of like whenever I do research for a conspiracy theory episode and then it evolves into anti-Semitism every fucking time. Every time.
Every goddamn time.
You get a couple pages into the research, a couple hours in, and then all of a sudden the word Zionist shows up and you're like, damn it, they got me again.
Yeah. So upon shooting their research of the origins of the missing kid stories, they realized that the truth just kind of didn't dwindle into something concrete and kind of instead expanded into something larger, much more convoluted, and sort of becomes an in-depth investigation of these 5 missing children's stories. And the objective was to bring the distinct elements into one kind of like overarching narrative, which was the oral tradition of the urban legends, the mystery of the missing children, and then the courtroom drama and the search for the roots of Staten Island's obsession with this case and the community's need for some sort of catharsis behind it. Because at the end of the day, we still have
5 missing children.
5 missing children, or 4, technically, because we found the body of 1,
right?
Which is hard for families because, these families, they don't get closure.
Right.
And every day I'm not in that situation and would never want to be, and can only imagine that pain just is something that is an everyday feeling, I would imagine. And even the community as a whole still feels that, because I think when you have a lot of these, not necessarily just urban legends, but when sort of tragedy strikes a community, it's not just the family, I think, or the families necessarily. Like, yes, those are, the focal point of that, but I think it definitely affects the community as a whole.
Mean, there is such a thing as trauma at the community level. If we look at places, that's why it's so important when we talk about what springs to mind right now when we talk about the Black Lives Matter movement, with places in this country like Detroit, like, Baltimore. Those are places that have experienced trauma at the community level, and there are effects to that. There are ripple effects to that. And so it's something, I definitely think that tragedy at this level impacts not only, as you said, the family that's closest to the epicenter, it ripples sort of throughout the entire community and then becomes this thing that lives on like a legend, like an urban legend.
Yes, exactly. So when they began filming all of this, they actually sent Andre a letter. And after not receiving a response for approximately a month, they decided to visit him directly at Rikers Island, which I love. Balls. Like,
shit.
Oh, you're not going to respond?
It's like the Halloween reboot. They were like, we're coming in here.
I didn't even think of that.
Yes,
but yes, it's like, oh, you're not going to write back?
Oh, okay. We'll come to you. It's fine.
How about I come to you? Investigate.
Don't think you're going to be out.
I'm going to tell you what, investigative journalism. It's like us going to Bunnyman Bridge.
To speak with Mr. Bunnyman.
I need to talk to Mr. Bunnyman. I need to see him now. We've got some words. We want to invite him on the show.
Yeah, that's what it was like. It wasn't us screaming in the car in the darkness. Like,
I mean, it was
small
awful.
Children. Definitely.
Need I remind you of the bunny running across the street at Bunnyman Bridge?
That bunny was a troll.
Terrifying. I'm still scared. I'm still terrified. So after not receiving a response for approximately a month, they visit him directly at Rikers Island. And on the day they were going to Rikers, they received the reply. So after a series of letter exchanges, Andre agreed to an interview. However, by the time the filmmakers arrived at the prison, he had just changed his mind and declined. Trolling.
Okay. Damn.
Seems to flip back and forth between his stories, if you ask me. And of course, his court case did not start until 4 years after his indictment, which was actually one of the longest pretrial motions in New York State history.
Yeah.
And the culmination of the film just kind of alludes to indicting Rand, which I guess sort of became a little controversial due to the fact that he was still claiming his innocence and there were, these missing bodies, but he still is being convicted. We have the one that we know of, and then the second one for Holly Ann, who came in later.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a little bit, that's kind of where the story leaves off. I've been interesting. I want to watch this movie. And I would actually like to watch the Burning, the one from 1981 that kind of inspired a lot of that, because I think that a lot of the things that you see is that this evolves. So you have this tragedy that happens, and then you start off with, you have your location, you have this hospital, and then it's, these missing children. Okay, well, he's got a hook, right? Mm-hmm. And he's sort of dragging these children underneath the halls of the Seaview Hospital. And then it just kind of takes off from there, becomes a movie. and then just really sort of elevates it to that level of legend that I think you really hit when there's a movie about it. Like once you make the movie about it, then you've really reached the status of a true urban legend.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting. I've heard about that documentary, but I hadn't watched it. I think I've heard good things. I don't know. Could suck. But I think I've heard.
Well, it has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. So.
Yeah. Well, we respect the tomatoes.
You always have to respect the tomato meter.
No, but I think I've heard good things a couple years ago when it came out and was sort of making the rounds, but somehow I didn't get to it. But I would like to watch that one as well as that movie from the 80s and to kind of see the intersection of where all these things kind of came together. Because that's what legend is. I mean, it's made up by oral tradition and the telling of stories. And we, much like podcasters, we as humans will sort of borrow from multiple sources to weave a story together that is always inspired. I think always inspired by something true or true adjacent. And then sort of grows and takes on an identity of its own.
Yeah.
But that was fascinating. I didn't know that there was actually a true story behind the whole Cropsey thing.
Yeah, there's an actual guy behind it. And he's just a really weird individual. He writes to people.
Do you think we'll get a letter?
I hope.
Do you think we'll get one? The Haunted Heart Podcast at gmail.com if you have any email privileges.
I hope not. He was during his trial. He was really into like the ladies of his jury.
Was he or was he? I can't get a read on this whole thing.
He professed his love for quote older and lonely women, and invited his female jurors to correspond with him.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, he could have been a sugar baby. He missed an opportunity there.
Well, no, because he says there was actually a. So another thing that I wanted to include was there was actually a at the time when he was 67, he wished a happy Mother's Day to all the ladies on Staten Island.
Just all of them. Yep.
Who supported prosecutorial vindictiveness against an innocent person.
Sounds like an
Quoted.
asshole.
Let me tell you this. He says, "Should I become a millionaire?" Okay.
All right. Doesn't look
you're
like you're
serving
making
two 25-year sentences. I don't think you're going to make $1 million in prison. But it says, "Should I become a millionaire, it would be my true nature to grant all of you with each an envelope full of seeds to plant and cultivate a rose bush that produces roses every season as a token of my heartfelt forgiveness, rather than bouquets of rosebuds which blossom and shortly die out."
The fuck? I gotta stop adding these random guys on Facebook, I gotta stop approving these ad requests. What the fuck kind of message is that? Did he put it in the newspaper? Or did
I
he
think
just
it was
send it
public.
out
I think it ended up. He sent it out. I think it just ended up being out. He says it is only a tiny rosebud, a flower of God's design, but I cannot unfold the petals with these clumsy hands of mine. The secret of unfolding flowers is not known to such as I. The flower only the Spirit of God opens, and my hands would fade and die. And he just keeps going on about these rosebuds. He's writing this love letter to the women of Staten Island. Like,
I'm not getting it. It's not there.
It's not hitting it for me.
Got it. All right. Yeah, well, good luck with that whole millionaire thing. Far be it from me to judge, but I don't think you're making much progress, bro.
Yeah, not at all.
Well, thank you for that. That was very interesting, very enlightening. And now I can go about. I and our listeners can go about educated and not enter into conversations pretending to know who Cropsey is. Right?
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us this week. If you want to connect with us on social media, please do so. We welcome that connection, and we will send you weird letters about rosebuds and such. We are on Instagram at The Haunted Heart Podcast. We're on Twitter at The Haunted Heart. If you want to support the show, you appreciate what we're doing, and you want to leave a little coin on the dresser for us, we would very much appreciate your contribution. You can go to www.patreon.com/thehauntedheart and find us there. You can sign up to support the show for as little as $1 a month. And we appreciate all of our lovely Patreon people's contributions.
Every last one of you.
Thank you. You can also find us on Facebook because we're old people and we're still on Facebook. If you search the Haunted Heart Podcast, you can find our page. Give us a like and a review there. You will also find our private Facebook group where we have a lot of discussions about episodes, about all kinds of topics related to horror, true crime, macabre topics, witchcraft, anything you want to talk about, and a healthy dose of funny memes.
A healthy dose.
So definitely find us there. It's private for your own privacy, but if you request to join, either Kenny, myself, or a member of our Murder Mod Squad will approve you, and you can get to chatting.
As long as you're not Cropsey.
As long as you're not Cropsey. We won't approve you if you're Cropsey. But I don't think prisons get Facebook, so, I mean, I could be wrong. But
who knows?
Be interesting to look into.
I don't know. I've seen some prison TikToks, and I'm like, how?
So until next time, guys, be sure to always keep your eyes and ears about you. Always be alert. Mm-hmm. Always be ever vigilant or vigilant.
Vigilant.
Whichever.
Just keep your eyes out for that strange, shadowy figure with the hook for the hand in the woods.
And until next time, stay spooky.